Have you ever felt like you've been completely cut off by someone you love? I have. My own father told me, face to face, that I was no longer his son. The words echoed in my ears long after he'd slammed the door. Why? Because I chose a path he didn't approve of. I decided to become an artist instead of taking over the family business. To him, it was a betrayal. He said I was throwing my life away on a childish dream. The day I packed my bags, he didn't even look at me. "Don't come back," was all he said. That was the last I heard from him for 5 long years. Those years were the hardest of my life. I was broke, lonely, and filled with self-doubt. I worked 3 jobs just to afford a tiny studio apartment and cheap art supplies. There were countless nights I'd stare at a blank canvas, his voice in my head telling me I was a failure. There were so many times I almost gave up, almost called him to say he was right. But something inside me, a stubborn little flame, refused to be extinguished. Art was my passion, my calling. It was the one thing that made me feel alive. So, I kept painting. I poured all my pain, my struggle, and my hope onto the canvas. I found a community of fellow artists who became my new family. They understood the drive, the sacrifice. Slowly, very slowly, things started to change. I sold my first painting at a small local fair. It wasn't for much, but it felt like winning the lottery. That small victory gave me the confidence to keep going. I started showcasing my work online, sharing my story. People connected with the emotion in my art. My little online gallery grew, and soon I was getting commissions. I even got featured in a few art blogs. It wasn't a glamorous life by any means, but I was surviving. I was doing what I loved, on my own terms. I was finally building a life for myself, a life my father had said was impossible. The pain of his rejection never fully went away, but it became a part of my story, a part of my art. I learned to live with the ghost of our relationship, thinking we'd never speak again. I had accepted it, I had moved on. Then, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Hello," I said. There was a pause, and then a hesitant, raspy voice I hadn't heard in years said my name. It was my mother. Her voice was trembling. She told me my father had had a massive heart attack. The family business, the one he'd sacrificed everything for, was on the brink of collapse. He had made some bad investments, trusted the wrong people, and was now facing bankruptcy. The stress had literally broken his heart. He was in the hospital, and they needed help. They needed me. My first reaction was a wave of pure, unadulterated anger after everything. After he threw me out, called me a failure, and ignored my existence for 5 years. Now he needed my help. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to say, "You made your bed, now lie in it." Every ounce of hurt and resentment came rushing back. I paced my small apartment, my heart pounding. Why should I help him? He didn't deserve it. He had never once reached out, never once asked if I was okay. He had chosen his business over his own child. But then, I thought of my mother, her voice cracking with desperation. I thought of the man who, before all this, had taught me how to ride a bike and read me bedtime stories. The man whose approval I had craved for so long. Could I really turn my back on him when he was at his lowest? I looked around my studio, at the paintings that chronicled my journey of pain and healing. My art had taught me about resilience, about forgiveness, and about empathy. Was I really going to let bitterness win? I realized that holding on to that anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It was only hurting me. Helping him wasn't about him deserving it. It was about who I wanted to be. So I took a deep breath, and I went. Walking into that hospital room was one of the surrealist moments of my life. My father looked so small, hooked up to machines. The powerful, intimidating man I remembered was gone. He looked old, tired, and defeated. When he saw me, tears welled up in his eyes. He couldn't speak much, but he reached out his hand. I took it in that moment. The anger just melted away. It was replaced by a profound sadness for all the years we had lost. He tried to apologize, his words broken and weak. I just shook my head and told him, "We'll figure it out." I spent the next few months untangling the mess he'd made of the business. It was a nightmare. I used the skills I'd learned building my own art career, marketing, financial management, networking. I sold a few of my more valuable paintings to inject some emergency cash into the company. I brought in new people, modernized their old-fashioned methods. And slowly, painstakingly, we started to turn things around. It was exhausting work, balancing the business, my art, and my father's recovery. But for the first time, my father saw what I was capable of. He saw that the childish dream had taught me more about resilience and problem-solving than his business school ever could have. One evening, after a particularly long day, he sat me down. He was much better by then. He looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was afraid, and I let my pride destroy the most important thing in my life. I'm so proud of the person you've become." Hearing those words, it was like a dam broke inside me. It was everything I'd ever wanted to hear. We both cried. It wasn't a magic fix. There was still a lot of healing to do, but it was a start, a real start. Today, our relationship is completely different. It's not perfect, but it's real. He's my biggest fan now, even has one of my paintings hanging in his office. I still run my art business, and I help advise him on the family company from time to time. We talk every week. I learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing to let go of the anger that holds you captive. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones who need our compassion the most. And sometimes, the path you forge for yourself, against all odds, is the very thing that leads you back home. This journey taught me that success isn't just about achieving your dreams. It's about the person you become along the way. It's about having the strength to stand on your own and the grace to forgive. If you're going through a tough time with your family, know that you're not alone. Paths can diverge and come back together in the most unexpected ways. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories about life's incredible journeys. See you in the next one.